or lose, hit the booze.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with three friends who love the club, the game, and all things Bears. Well, boys, we're not going to do a big introduction because we're going to try and keep this short and sweet. And I know when I say that, there'll be a lot of listeners out there laughing at the irony of it, but actually we do want to do it short and sweet for a number of reasons. Number one is that we've just been at the cricket all afternoon, at the T20, freezing ourselves off, and we drove straight here. Secondly, we did feel we needed to do something about the game on Friday. Obviously, it is officially the last game of the season. But thirdly, we are due to have our 200th episode, and we didn't feel that doing that on a loss to them down the road was appropriate. So we're going to call this episode 199 and a half.
Love it.
And then we are going to have a little think about an end of season review or something else to do the full 200 its justice. Are we happy with that, boys?
Yeah. There's no way we're doing a 200th episode in a defeat to those
boys down the road.
Absolutely. And we're back at, what are we drinking this? We're back at the Bristol Beer Factory tap room, bar. Drinking a fine pint of ale, aren't we?
Do you know what it was? I think
a little New Zealand IPA.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Beautiful.
And we should say the commitment that we show is that we've driven straight back from Gloucester Road, from another sporting arena
to a pub,
the county grounds, straight to our lockdown special. As my mate Mooney says, he said basically you do a podcast as a lock-in. Not a lockdown, a lock-in. I mean, lockdown and lock-in. Yeah. I mean, imagine if we went into lockdown.
We could lock down here for 2 years. I'd love it.
I mean, we should say thank you again to Lewis because, he's held the fort for us, didn't he? So we can get there on time.
He did. We texted him from the cricket, and he said, "I'm not sure you boys coming down." And I said, "Yeah, I think we will." So we're here, and we got to do it justice. So, well, boys, as we all know, as all our listeners know, we had our semi-final playoff at the Rec on Friday. In the end, it was a 34-20 loss, but there was certainly more things in that game than just the result. But of course, it does mean that my speculative purchase of a Premiership final ticket in December, which was at one point was looking like one of the best buys of the season, is now been made redundant. So if there's anyone out there who wants to go to the Premiership final, just DM me on one of our various socials and we can come to a deal.
Get any Leicester or Bath
there might be some Tigers. I think I'd rather give it to a Tigers. I'd rather give it to a Tigers fan. To be fair,
fair play.
What about Tommy Dabbs?
Although
he's a Tiger.
Tommy Dabbs, I mean maybe we'll do that. Right. So let's go first in. I mean, in many ways, it was a very disappointing loss. But at one point, it looked that the narrative, as we had hoped from last week's pod, we talked about the fact that we had a pretty good chance if everything came together. We had a good 23. We knew we'd have a good 23. We knew we had Rubiolo. We knew we had Genji coming back. We knew that we compete. And actually, I think there was a lot of optimism in our pod last Sunday. And to be fair, after about 20 minutes, that optimism was looking quite well founded.
Well,
so let's go for it.
I mean, to be fair, and on obviously BBC last week, obviously we were on the TV. I was quoted as being super excited about the game.
He was.
And I literally which I was mocked for on many levels. But
it's very Southville to say you're super excited.
I know. The problem is, mate, I thought...
Whereas Lee said, we're going to whack them. Something like that.
Exactly.
We'll be back.
Anyway, we've come down off our media platform, and we were looking forward to the game, weren't we?
Well, let's talk about that first half, because I actually thought that first half was as good to perfection as what we could have been. There were so many positives. The way we started the brighter team. We didn't just snuffle them out. We actually executed everything we wanted to do perfectly, and I was so pleased because, like we all know, we did the social media thing in the week and saying, we did say Bath had been the best team by a country mile. And Bath are one of those teams that, like, the only way you can do it is by grabbing them by the scruff of the neck, and that's exactly what we did. And we had a really bright start, didn't we? And I just wish we could. It it was one of those like. Well, let's talk about the first half because my brain is still like cascading
Processing.
into the second half and the defeat.
Oh,
and,
well, exactly.
Well, I think let's go. I mean, I think the first thing that can happen when you've got a big away game, and we know that we hadn't, we even didn't use our allocation tickets, so we knew there was a lot of Bath fans there. They're going to be cock-a-hoop,
of course,
and of course that can go two ways. You either get kind of overshadowed by the home. By the intensity of the
which
home,
a lot of teams have,
teams had, and it can be in a kind of intense place, or you build on that, or you draw on that intensity, and that's exactly what the boys did. That first 10, 15 minutes, we were just I think that was the most intense I've seen us play, and it was led by the three musketeers, the three Bristolian musketeers, Genji, Dunny, Klosky.
Yeah.
And they were, as a triumvirate, they were on fire. And there was definitely an intensity from being Bristolians, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think to add to that, you got people like Bats and Fitzhard and just everyone we were together as a collective.
We were aligned.
We were aligned. Absolutely, we were aligned. And I thought we also had that pragmatism as well. That we've not had at all times throughout the season, if that makes sense. But we just seem to be cohesive. Yeah. Is probably the best way I can describe it.
And we were accurate, and we were clinical. And we've always said this, that if we are accurate and clinical, a lot of teams will struggle to stay with us. And Bath could not stay with us.
No.
If you do wonder, you roll it back to like even Monday and Sunday. The claws were out from Pat Lamb, weren't they? The amount of dirty talk he was giving Bath and Van Graan and their expenditure and their salary cap, etc. So we're all, I don't know, who knows if that played into Bath's mind. We're already going in as the massively underspending underdogs. And I don't know if that fed into Bath's minds or they just didn't give a monkeys or anything. But, you can't take the Noel Wester out of a Bristolian, can't they? Genji went on that pitch. And if he'd have looked me in the eye, I think I would have just shit myself and walked home back to Bristol. He was literally on fire.
Yeah.
And, and not taking nothing away from the aggression and the passion, he was a little bit hot-headed, wasn't he? That unfortunately led to the reverse penalty decision.
That was the first place.
Place that sort of was a little bit of the cause of our demise on that game, wasn't it? And it was a little bit unfortunate. But after that, I think he calmed down a little bit. Fitz said, play the game and don't be so hot-headed. And, we were in the ascendancy, let's not deny, for the full first half.
But I do feel, though, that is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because if you go in with that intensity, there is the capability of it going the wrong side.
But that was the only way we had to do it.
And what I loved about it was I don't think any of us could have asked, like any of the Bristol supporters could have asked any more from our team in that first half.
None at all.
We were brilliant.
And Miles, there might be a few listeners saying, hang on, what have you just said there, Miles? That it was our hot-headedness that led to our demise. I'm not sure that's true. I think, yes, in that first reversal of penalty, that was a bit unfortunate and we went 3-0 down. But I think after that it was, and it wasn't hot-headedness that led our demise. I think in the second half, a Bristolian hot-headedness. So I think on balance, Genji was pumped, Kloska was pumped, Dunny was pumped,
and I don't think how much it means.
And that's what I'm saying. You like to think all players are pumped before they go out for a game because that's the job they do, and our boys do go out and put their bodies on the line. But there was just something a little bit magical. Yeah. It was magical about those three. Yeah. And when Dunny got the pop pass from Genji to go under the line, it was almost like, it was a fairy story. Not that I'm saying Dunny's a fairy, but you know what I mean.
No, and the beauty of that is we're massive fans of Dunny on the pod, aren't we? We've all, we've all
first Premiership try.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, it was. We don't often see him on the Premiership
try. No, first Premiership try. Yeah. We were amazed. We were so proud, weren't we? So proud. But
we did all panic a little bit when he put the hand up before the jump, before the dive over. And I was thinking, Dunny, please don't drop it now. Please don't drop it. But that start was so positive. Yeah. And then leading on from that, we had I mean, I'll be honest, I had a few beers. My memory of the second half, you boys probably have to take over because it gets vaguer as the game starts slipping away. Yeah. But my memory of that first half was I thought we were quite dominant in that first half.
Totally.
There was a couple of things that we should say.
Say that was some idiot going down the side of the tobacco factory doing a wheelie on a dirt bike. We're in the middle of Bristol, but anyway, let's move on from that. What were you saying?
I thought, to add to the passion and everything in the first half, I thought there was a couple of things. Finn Russell was playing pretty poorly, and I thought the big thing we said last week on the pod is getting into his head.
Did that one where he did a box kick straight into touch, didn't he?
Yeah.
Shanked. And I just felt there was a couple of things where maybe like Revovo. Sorry, yeah. We have been at the cricket all day. There's a little bit of naivety there, and I think and I'm being ultra critical, but I think when you play a team like Bath, as good as they are, you can't. Those little things you really have to stamp out, and you can't let them
what
get
what you're referring to is, let's just go back one step and say Dunny's try. We can't not talk about Revovo, that try. And I mean, we had been pumping their line. They then clear it. It looks like it's one of the best clearance kicks ever. Revovo's gone back. He's got Will Muir, the horse, galloping at him, and I'm looking at that live, thinking we're in big trouble here. Yeah. He's gonna hold on. It's gonna be a penalty, and they're gonna score.
Yeah.
He goes a little slip inside, and then he just starts galloping, and he did the one thing that every rugby fan wants to see your big lad do: go straight into the first tackler and put him on his pants. Yeah. And it was Ben Spencer as well. Ben Spencer's not small. No. Revovo went straight, he went on, and then he did a no-look pop to who would be the best person to be on his shoulder? Bill Matter.
Another Fijian. And then, they dragged in so many Bath defenders. When it then span wide, suddenly we're wrapping around, and I'm seeing Jan van Rensburg pops it to Heward, who juggles it, which reminded me a little bit of that Rich Lane juggle. Juggles it, and then pops it over to Gabs, and then everything that we asked for. Quick ball, Harry, couple of phases, and then Genji pops to Dunny, it's in. But
and that's everything that Bath wouldn't want us to do.
And it was clear. But the point you're making about the naivety was then on the back of that, we then ran from our 22 again. Yeah. But then it was a wrapper, and then Revovo got it off McGinty, and of course Bath, they're not stupid. They shut him down straight away. Got done for a turnover penalty, and then he trips. Now that's the naivety you're saying. The irony was they got 3 points in that penalty. After that, we actually weathered the penalty very well. Yeah. But it's little things like that, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, you've just summed it up there brilliantly. That was the beauty and the beast, all in that same.
But it was so good to see the beauty, and I think on balance. And there was. I mean, he made a couple of breaks. He made another break in the second half that actually, ironically, led to one of their tries when and Ted Hill did some amazing cover tackle on him. I mean, and then he was unfortunate with one of their tries in the second half that there was a grubber and it bounced bad and went over. But I think on balance, I almost, apart from that trip, which I kind of, in a way, I put out of my mind because it didn't really lead to anything, it was a pretty fantastic performance that gave me a lot of hope for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But your absolute naivety, because that was absolutely unavoidable from Revovo, wasn't it?
But
Pat must have been absolutely fuming.
But it didn't matter because they only got 3 points from it.
Well,
and he'll learn from it. He has to learn.
But what we're trying to say is, in a big game like that, you can't have silly mistakes.
Over the whole game, we had 2 yellow cards. You cannot face a team like Bath with 2 men down for 20 minutes and expect to win. Surely, can we? I do think that second yellow card was incredibly harsh. Having watched it back again, I agree. Marmion got done for not releasing the tackle, and he didn't even make the tackle. No, and he did look like, credit to him, because I think that's when, if it'd been football, they would have been arguing. This is what I love about rugby as well. Even though it was a bit unfortunate for us, he kind of accepted it and ran off. And then I watched it again and thought, I have no idea why he got done. Anyway, moving on.
Well, I'm saying, going back to the first half, I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but it's kind of one of those.
I think they love it when we bounce around.
When you do a half pod,
Yeah,
this is what you
mate.
get.
This is like
Exactly.
the Harlem Globetrotters. we're just bouncing back. We're like getting to the basket, and we're like, oh no, we'll go back again.
back
and like
to
do it
ours.
again. We might do a slam dunk in a minute.
One of the key factors, I think we'll all agree, was in that first half losing Harry Randall.
Yes.
Because the speed that we were playing with has got Rands at the centre of everything that we're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I forgot what minute he went off. Before the...
It was about 36. Or it was before. It was just
37.
before half time.
Yeah, and the thing is, Rands is so unlucky with injuries, isn't he? And it was a shoulder, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. Pat was a bit. He wasn't happy about it. He didn't. Even Pat was a bit concerned about it afterwards. So that worries
I mean,
me.
let's hope he's all right. I mean, it looked like he just fell on his shoulder and got the full weight of a Bath player on it. But I mean, are you surprised we didn't score more than one try in the first half?
Do you know what?
With the play that how well we were doing?
I'm glad Miles has brought that up actually, because I wrote down in my notes that I think we'd left maybe 10 points.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it was almost like in hindsight, the writing was on the wall at half time because of that, because we were only 13-3 up and we should have been 20.
13-6 at half time, weren't we?
13-6.
Because they got two penalties, which
But it could have been 23-6.
And I think you're right. Actually, it's a very, very simple stat. They showed it in about 70 minutes, the red zone efficiency. I think I wrote it down actually. And so over the whole game, Bath had 9 visits to the 22, scored 34 points. That's 3.8 points per visit. We had 8 visits to the 22 and scored 10. This is the problem. I think it was all down to that red zone efficiency. And, sometimes it's hard to analyse. Is it because they defend well? Is it because we butcher it? And as they'd say on my football cliches pod, a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think there's also the fact, obviously, when you're a man down, the other boys have
get tired.
You know what I mean? So there was,
course.
it felt, I don't know, like in hindsight, the beauty of hindsight, you look back at it, but it kind of felt like little things were ebbing away from us.
Well, it's this thing called momentum.
Yes.
We had the momentum. We had it in a headlock.
Yeah.
But we didn't make the most of it when we had it in headlock. And that was my worry. And then half time, Bath regrouped. I remember Van Graham said afterwards we had a calm dressing room. We knew that we can come back, that everything suggests that Bath come back in the second half. So they came out with a steely, calm confidence. We obviously, probably our narrative was just keep doing the same as you're doing, because that's kind of the way we do it.
Yeah. And when it's worked so well.
And within 2 minutes, it's 13-all because, again, we muck up the restart, give away a cheap penalty, another cheap penalty. Yeah. Ted Hill goes over, and then suddenly we'd had momentum in a headlock, and it had slithered out and had been picked up by Bath. And they were they were doing the conga with momentum.
Well, at half time, they were rubbing the margarine
on our momentum. It slid out of us. Yeah, and that was it. It was, to be honest, to me, that was the game.
Yeah.
20 minutes of momentum shift. And we actually got the momentum. The margarine dried up a bit, because later we got the momentum back at the end.
It dried up in the last 15
but
minutes.
The momentum is a fickle mistress.
Absolutely.
And we didn't make the most of the time we had with her.
Yeah, that's very true. That's well said. And I don't think really, there's not many sports where momentum is so momentous, but rugby union is so. I mean, it really a game can change on a 20-minute spell.
100%.
And I don't know. And for me, let's say how we felt watching it, because for me, it was more and more heartbreaking. Every minute was it just felt like, I can see this going, and I can't do anything about stopping it.
Well, we'd had so many good restarts. You remember the week before Harlequins, and we thought finally we got this restart sorted. So to find that on the first restart, the second half, a muck up went all offside. I think head went in our hands, didn't we? And we thought, goodness sake, it led to that first try. And I think you're right. Immediately, I suspect we felt, look, momentum's all gone. And already Bath are just picking up their speed and ascendancy. And that was the sort of rest of the game, wasn't it?
And I'm just listening to Miles say that then. We haven't been clinical all season, really.
No.
I don't think at any stage we've been clinical.
Didn't
We've been winning games.
Well, we always talk about the elusive 80-minute performance. Didn't we say the Tigers and the Quins game before Christmas was quite close?
Yeah.
Because we
started
clinical then. But then, you've got to do it. That's why Bath probably will win the Premiership title, because they have been consistently good at their process.
And one thing that I do admire with them is that even when their backs are against the wall, they just find a way to hang in there. They still hang in.
Yeah, and mainly because they have about as many good players on the bench as they've got on the
on the field.
And let's not be churlish.
No,
but that's fair play to them. Fair play to their financial planning, and fair play to them for having a massive academy catchment area.
The irony of that is, I know loads of Bath fans are actually, when we had the Glatigos. Yeah, and they were saying, money bags. It's really funny.
There's not been a lot of money bags Bath knocking around, has there? No. It's like, Bruce Craig, he spent so much money, he deserves to win it. Yeah. It's like, I mean, there is a little bit of, and like, no offense, we've got some very good friends as Bath fans, but there are some out there, some salty, myopic Bath fans that, don't show a lot of humility. And I saw a few things on Twitter, a few people. It's like, they're going on about Pat Lam saying it all. He's going to say that. It's his professional sport. What do they think? We're not, it's our job to like wind people up. But after the game, proper Bath fans were applauding what Bristol did. Yeah. They applauded the attitude and the effort that Bristol put into that game to make it such a great
proper fans.
And on that note, should we congratulate Tommy Dabbs, Lloyd Rimmer, Rich Knight,
Bath Bites,
because it is the time for us to doff our caps
and Bath rugby supporters. I think that's Henry Bate. We've been on the radio with him.
Right, and these are genuine Bath fans who are actually nice people, really genuine people. So when we have banter, that works with us, doesn't it? Because that's because we're all on the same level, and none of those guys that I've just mentioned there are any way like your stereotypical Bath, body bashing supporters. So we are genuinely pleased for them. The best team won on the day, and I think
and it's right. And I know we're bitter about it because of what happened to us, but it is right that a team that wins the regular season by a canter should at least be in the final.
Yeah.
So it does raise the question. Well, I mean, it's proven today now that the top two teams have made the final. Yeah. It's almost, there is a question to say, should we have a top four? Should we just have a top two?
Top 1 and 2.
And they play off. Because although, a bit late for us now, but I think genuinely that is the right thing. And actually genuinely fair play to Bath. Like people like Tom Dunn. I've got a lot of time for Tom Dunn. And he is, at the end of that, he was battered.
He looked like an orc from Lord of the Rings, didn't he?
That just shows. And there was a stat put out by our, there was a stat put out saying the top 3 tacklers in the whole match was Tom Dunn, Miles Reed, who'd only been on in the second half, and Guy Pepper, or one of them. So the top 3 tackle counts were Bath players, which just shows how much pressure they were under.
I mean, Pepper was.
Yeah, but it just shows that we put them under so much pressure that they're they had to tackle their life out of the game.
And from our point of view, I'd say, like, we couldn't have asked any more, could we?
No.
So there's no anything left in the tank there. We gave everything we had, and we just got beaten by a better team.
And we even came back in the second half, and that's what I'm saying. It's such a shame that we couldn't have had a couple more tries, or a try, even one more converted try in the first half, because pressure is a funny thing, and momentum wouldn't have slipped out of our hands quite so quickly in that first 20 if we'd had a bit more scoreboard pressure.
I mean, if you've got that buffer, then Bath then have to open up a little bit more.
They do.
And then silly things can happen. Yeah. And what is there a better team in the Gallagher Premiership than Bristol when a game's open?
None.
So it would have played absolutely into our hands.
I've got to say, just a little interjection, just made me laugh there when you called it the Gallagher Premiership. It's a bit like when the World Cup, they had to. You officially have to call it the FIFA World Cup.
Do you?
That was a Sepp Blatter thing. It's not the World Cup. The FIFA is
World
like,
Cup.
are you working for Gallagher? He's like, Lee Andrews,
No.
representative of Gallagher Insurance,
yeah,
is now.
I don't even know why I said it.
Yeah,
It's probably the
Gallagher
beers that
Premiership.
we've had
Yeah.
at cricket.
It's like we didn't go to the county ground. We went to the Seat Unique Stadium
Yeah.
today, didn't we?
Oh, absolutely. We played the cinch.
Actually, that's another for a pod. If we end up selling the naming
rights
rights
to the
to
podcast.
Ashton Gate or the pod, but I was actually thinking that's another discussion. If we ever sold the naming rights to Ashton Gate, what would be an appropriate
Nothing.
appropriate company to take over?
Clark's Pies.
The
of North
I
Street.
think the Thatcher's Ashton Gate Stadium.
I think probably Thatcher.
All the Clark Pies Stadium.
Clark Pies
That could be
Stadium.
someone local. wouldn't
Actually,
it?
you know what, boys? I can't believe it. The Bristol Beer Factory Stadium. Surely.
That's got a nice ring to it.
It's got a nice ring. It balances out. Anyway, we digress.
We
And
are.
I know people don't mind when we do, but that is maybe a little bit of a digression. So let's just take a rain.
Yeah.
Hey man, let's just take a rain
Yeah,
check
yeah.
where we are.
Let's
We've
not
had a lot of
revisit.
discussion.
Not revisit.
We've discussed the first half, how it was just a phenomenal, as Miles would say. My spine was tingling
Yeah.
seeing Genji and Kloska.
It was
Kloska in his little black headband as well.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
No offence, I've met George, and he's a young lad, and he's a very, very nice lad, and he was very humble, and that we talked about that interview. But my missus said, I said, oh, he's about 22. She went, what? I thought he was about 30. She thought and I said, that's because he's a warrior. That's what he is.
he's
Warriors. You
mid-
can't
mid
think
to
of
late
warriors
20s,
as being
isn't he?
young.
But
can
it
you?
was a super exciting
Yeah,
first
it was
half,
so.
wasn't
I
it?
know, I was super excited.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kloska played out of his skin, and that game, despite the loss on Friday night, he is very, very slowly but maturely playing his way into an England setup. Surely he shifted position.
Yes.
He had a sublime game. Was tackling out of this world, and he's got to be on that radar fairly soon.
So we've done that. I think we've agreed that
Nothing-
the game was really about the third quarter, as I would call it.
yeah.
Miles doesn't, but everyone else does. The third quarter, and it was really a momentum shift of epic proportions, which I don't think we can blame the team for. It was just one of those things. And then we just got done by and fair play to them. And then we came back, and it's depressing. It's demoralising to think that we were so close. We were so close. Probably closer, ironically, than we were in like 21 when, we were so confident we were going to, and then, I feel like
then it slipped away.
And- but, at the end of the day, we've lost.
And we've been in the top four all season,
Yeah.
right? But I
But
think
we came fourth.
Yeah.
And we have basically come fourth. haven't we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can't. And I think, to be honest, given we've talked about this a lot, that no pundits, apart from our mate Elgin Alderman of
Well
the
remembered.
Times, was the only one that had any sort of interest in Bristol doing well this season. So in a way, and this is maybe something we'll do in the 200th pod, not the 199 and a half pod, is to discuss, has it been a good season?
Yeah, there's a lot of scope for that. And,
There is
and
a lot of
also,
scope.
I want us to talk about the future.
Yeah.
So what we should say is, without going into too much, let's have a quick chat now about what was it about Friday that gives us excitement and hope for the future?
Team spirit.
Team spirit. Miles?
40 minutes of some of the best defence I've seen all season.
It reminds us that we're not just a throw it around side. We can D. And with the likes of, Fitzharding, again, we've said this before, he's a talisman when for unheralded work.
Well, that's unfair.
We
saying that,
can
isn't it?
defend. Like, there's been a lot of narrative about us not being able to defend.
Yeah.
But we can defend when the chips are down for sure. Like we are. We can.
I take that back a bit because we had 2 men off, so we had a man down for 20 minutes a game. So it's unfair for me to say 40 minutes because you've got to defend so much harder with 1 man down, haven't you? And it makes it so difficult. So with 15 lads on the pitch, we could have defended for 80 minutes, couldn't we? But for what we were given, we defended amazingly against one of the best teams.
Now,
the best team in the league, best team.
But in the second semi-final, which I watched, Sale Tigers,
most of that yesterday.
it was a totally different game. It was a box kicking. It was a chess game. Now, I've got respect for those boys that play for those teams because they are beasts as well. But whatever we say,
They ain't putting bombs on seats.
but that ain't the sort of rugby that we are going to like. Let's be honest, we're not going to get that rugby now because Pat has held his hands up, kind of, to say that he tried to do it, didn't work. So we've got to accept it.
Actually, I don't want that type of rugby.
No.
I much prefer going out on our sword the way we do, than watching.
Yeah. So
watching a cell. Or
I guess without going into too much talk about the future, because I guess that's what we'll do later.
Yeah.
What I'm saying about what we got out of Friday is that it's reaffirmed that we need to be an exciting team.
Yes,
we have to be to coin the phrase
of
a fellow pod, for the love of rugby.
Yes.
We have got to get our heads around the fact that we are doing a service to rugby union by playing the way. And like you look at the likes of Yancey, of Bernard with his locks flowing. You look at the likes of Noah Heward. I thought. That gave me so much. I thought we missed him so much this season. And that's not just diminishing the efforts of Rich Lane. I think a Rich Lane, Noah Heward combo is great. Just that, but, as I said, I thought Bill Matter actually was one of the better games he's had. Like he's almost like he needs to rise to an occasion. And somehow next season, we need to say to Bill, it's like we're playing Bath again every week.
I mean, the thing is, like you've just said then about Noah Heward, like, another dimension that he gives us is that defensively, you've got Gabs on one wing, Heward on the other, but defensively, he covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Whereas Gabs is allowed the free rein, which is exactly what fits his profile.
Yeah.
But then you've got to have a Noah Heward. You almost can't have two Gabs.
No.
You know.
So just to summarise, we've done the first half. We've talked about it. I think we've done enough for the first half. We've agreed that it was 20 minutes in the second that did us, but there's a lot to be positive about. I'm very wary. If someone slagged us off, someone criticised us for repeating ourselves a few times the other day. So I want to keep it nice and clear. Is there anything else we can say about the game? I feel like we've covered it pretty well. I feel like we're now going for the slam dunk.
Yeah.
We're almost at the slam dunk. Is there anything else you boys come to mind and want to say about Friday night that you think our listeners might also be thinking, I wish they had said that? Is there anything? You can't remember the second half because you had too much.
I can remember it until the point of us.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Is there anything else apart from you were super excited in the first half? Then we were a bit disappointed in the second, but we kind of felt pride. At the end.
Yeah.
And I think we felt pride because a lot of genuine Bath fans who we know were very respectful for what we tried to do, despite the kind of bants in the week coming up. Anything else, Miles?
Well, it's very difficult because we had 2 disallowed tries in the second half. 2 held up tries, so not disallowed, up tries. And I guess, do we need to be a little bit more clever? Yeah. Maybe when you were playing an extremely difficult side like Bath, you get near the try line and you're after your individual brilliance, which on that occasion didn't quite work out. You remember Thax went across?
Yeah, he went upside. Yeah,
he went upside down. He tried to take it himself. One more pop, and we may have got across the line.
The irony of that one was on comms when I watched again. They said that someone said that he probably didn't expect to have got past those three because he got past 3 blokes, and it was almost like he got there too early. He wasn't expecting to score. He was expecting to set up the next ruck.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
You cannot deny, the individual wants and needs to get across that try line. I'm not taking away from the guys who nearly got over the try line, but you may be a little bit cleverer. Yeah. There was one instant when maybe Adge could have popped it out. Gabs was running horizontally quite a bit of the game, wasn't he? And maybe, I watched the game.
But do you know what you're saying, Miles?
Could have run forward a little bit more, and but that's.
But do you know what you're saying?
Critical.
We've tried to frame this discussion in momentum. That's what we framed it in.
Yeah.
And actually, the big question is like, how do you get momentum? Like we talked about it, we described that we had it, then they had it, then we had it, and there is no answer. One of the things is it's all about key moments. It's about decisions that are made. Like Tom de Glanville made a decision to put a grubber through that was a great decision, and then he got the luck on the back of that at the bounce, and they score.
Yeah.
And that
you make your own luck.
You make your own luck.
Yeah,
and I think
you're right.
that is something we'll take from that game, that we made our own luck, but we went to them, we took them by the throat, and we were but we just were a bit unfortunate not to get more from our effort. And they on another day, we might have won that game. There's they know that Bath know that, and that's why Tom Dunn was very. He wasn't a cock a hoop. He wasn't arrogant after the game. He knew he'd been in an absolute battle, and he was so proud of his team because they didn't panic. And they took them and they did it. So I think that's what I'm going to take from Friday myself, is that it was just a fantastic spectacle.
Yeah.
I felt I felt disappointed, but I also felt kind of like strangely kind of infused, buoyant.
I think buoyant,
by the whole thing.
Buoyant for next season, aren't they? We could take the best team in the league on, and do it.
Right. A couple of other things.
Really
I'm just going to. I'm going to say we got a couple of the Hambleys, the poet laureate, and his brother. I'm not going to read them out because I haven't got them on me, but I just want to make on record to say thank you. We've acknowledged the fantastic interaction from Robin and I can't remember his Hammy. But they just love it. It's just love that interaction, and also from everybody else. Rachel Pearce, who emails us a lot. We've got Matty Crute. We've got Marcus Watts. We've got people that we don't really know outside of this, but make the effort to get involved, and it makes us feel like we're a forum for discussion as well as just a So I just wanted to make that point,
and that's a great point, and we all agree. Like, there's no pod without our listeners. The way they contribute, the way they interact with us is brilliant, and we really appreciate every single one of them. So thank you very much.
Okay, that was it actually.
Well,
that was all I could think about. That was the last thing I wanted to say.
It's talking of Marcus Watts, because Marcus Watts did pull us up.
He did.
Can you remember?
What this weekend meant to the weekend?
Well, quickly, you do that now. Quickly.
Well,
I've got to make an apology as well, so you do one now.
Well, Marcus, this is for you. Obviously, we completely neglected to mention the fact that club legend Amber Reid has been appointed assistant coach for next season.
For the women's team,
for the women's team.
And the women's team's a little bit up in the air at the moment, though, isn't it? Because she's been appointed assistant coach to nobody at the moment. So there is a lot to come from the women. And obviously, it's a big summer for the women's game, and it will be the World Cup and the World Cup focus at Ashton Gate.
It'll be a late start season after the World Cup,
but it'll be interesting to see who comes in, and I mean that is a fantastic appointment, and we look forward to seeing how that pans out.
I don't think we realised that she came on in the Harlequins game and delivered the ball, did she? I think we missed that entirely. I think that was a respect.
That's
to
because
her
we'd already had 3 double pointers.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
So I'd say our game focus on that day was probably somewhere else.
Yeah, somewhere else.
I agree.
The final thing, unless Miles got something, is I want to make an apology. We do get this thing on Buzzsprout where it's called fan mail, and someone clicks on it, and they can send you comments on the pod.
We got one, didn't we?
But we got one, and I actually realised we've got 3 from the same person because it's like a number, and there's no way of replying. So I got a little bit of pelters for going on about the fact that Bristol. Was like, we needed. It was the Bob the Builder thing. It was when I said, after Bob the Builder, and I said it was great to have another song, blah blah blah. And I think and I understand, and I think that whoever it was, I apologise. I didn't mean to disrespect the Bristol. Of course, the Bristol is the front of our podcast. It's what. But it was just, I mean, it's a continual conversation that we have amongst listeners about, is there any more stuff we can do? So I apologise if I gave offence to that person who I don't know who it is, but at the same time, it wasn't really. And also, the other thing you need to remember is we do these pods without planning what we're going to say, and sometimes we say stuff without having thought about it.
Yeah, I'm retracting your apology. Sorry, but you weren't dissing the Bristol song at all. You were just saying, actually, it's nice to have something else to sing occasionally. And I think we've actually said that for a couple of years. But there is nothing
better than when we're pumping the line or when we're defending the line, the operatic choral chant of guttural chant of Bristol. Bristol is brilliant.
And you've always said that. So,
but whatever. Right,
and we've got nothing better, have we?
Miles, I want to knock this on the head because we said it's a minute pod, and we are very close. So, we will. Thanks, everybody. That was really just about the game on Friday and a few other things. We're going to call this pod 199 and a half. We appreciate you listening. We will be back in touch. Watch our socials to find out what we're planning to do for our 200th pod, but it will involve some sort of end of season review, next season preview, and maybe a few other things. So keep an eye on the socials. Keep safe. Have a good week, and
Up the Bears.